welcome back to my channel IndigoAngel. If you're new, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and don't forget to hit the notifications bell so that way you can continue to be updated, integrated, and informed with all of my cosmic messages, all of my celestial messages, as I do have a lot of things going on my channel. I do a lot of activations, which are more of a artistic expression through the activation for whatever, essentially whatever spiritual essence that I'm trying to bring through according to the radial light source that has activated within me. And I just try to bring that through the expression of art. I call those my activations. I also do invocations, so you'll see some of my older videos. I've done a lot of invoking and spiritual ritual with energy, and then, but I mostly stick to a lot of the quantum perceptions, quantum cognitions within the radial light spectrum of the cosmic imprints and cosmic, you could say, seedings and civilizational references according to the celestial stars. And so I'm constantly integrating and, you know, bringing forth a lot of that information. And so I hope you guys enjoy this. Today I have a Hydra Starseed energy update, as we are about to be aligning to this celestial alignment that ultimately we align. So it comes through the Lion's Gate, but it aligns through Regulus, and Regulus will culminate and come into fruition and culmination through the head of Hydra. Okay, so I put these out for just a second. I'm going to explain to you what these are. But essentially, if you look at my map here, you see the head of Hydra is actually aligning before we actually come into the celestial influence of Regulus. So we come into Regulus, we come into the lion through the head of the serpent, through that influence, and it's that merging, it's that convergence of that radial light source energy that's activating within the planet, and it's activating sacred grid sites within the planet according to the gridding system and through these APIN networks. Okay, so this is what I was going to talk to you guys today with this Hydra Starseed update, is a little bit about these APIN network systems, is what I've been talking about in a lot of my videos lately. But two that are really activating through the Hydra alignment would be this Anunnaki Andromi Nephite Intruder APIN. This is considered a harmful or a hijacked APIN according to Pleiadian, Nibiruan Anunnaki. This is considered a D4 reverse current Phoenix wormhole. Okay, so these are just hijacked grid systems that essentially bring collective consciousnesses, manifestation templates, Cathara grids, personal Cathara grids, and planetary Cathara grids, and just overall human and planetary quantum into a wormhole, which is considered a finite system that is feeding upon itself that will come to implode into quantum space dust at some point. That's just going into kind of, you know, the darker realism of those perceptions, but it's not all darkness, it's not all, you know, darker aspects. There's a counterbalance to everything. Okay, so through this grid site, so through these alignments, what I'm gathering is that there's a lot coming up about the underworld. There's a lot coming up about inner earth and the second dimension. So if you think about the second dimension within the human body, that would be the sacral chakra. So that is still, you know, the water of, you know, the sacral chakra represents our emotions, the emotional body, which represents the water, which represents the subconscious, the sub-psyche aspect. And that's right, you know, at the tip of the coast of the United States, right as the entrance to, you know, our warmest waters. And so Sarasota, Florida is actually the heart of the Eagle APIN, and it's also the head of the serpent APIN, which I found was interesting. So we have Sarasota, Florida, which is a representation of inner Earth according to the primary universal stargates Templars. Okay, so this is according to Guardian Consciousness. This is according to the Voyager's books. You can actually find these. My Cathara, I specifically overlaid a couple different templates to match these up. But yes, you can find all of the information in the Voyager's book towards the end. But essentially, inner Earth, which is Sarasota, Florida, would be that second round table in the Universal Templar. Okay, so representing inner Earth, representing basically the gateway of manifestation coming from underworld to fruition of materialism, to matter, to the physical realm, all of these things. So it's very, very interesting how it's all coming to fruition. What I feel is what's activating these gate sites would be coming into that alignment into Alphard and Regulus. Okay, so it is the activation of the Lion's Gate, but you know, it's more than that, because we're actually coming into some interesting perceptions right here through this specific alignment. So these specific APIN networks are called Atlantean Pylon Implant Networks. The planetary grid networks created by members by the threefold founder flame and Orifim of the Great White Lion and the Golden Eagle grid. Okay, so these reinforce the original morphogenetic fields and support the DNA and consciousness for all planetary life through ascension. The APIN components are generally linked up by using crystalline-based technology, like embedding computer microchips into the Earth into a selected format. The Guardians have used them for free energy systems, climate stabilization, healing, interstellar communications, and broadcasting networks. The APINs were designed in the shapes of creatures based upon the genetics, and so extra-dimensionals could easily identify them from space. In some cases, these shapes are representative of the threefold founder flame creators, and it's not in coincidence that many Earth creatures resemble ETs because they have the genetic lines, such as lions, cats, reptiles, insects, birds, etc. By having a creature extension of themselves on Earth, ETs have a consciousness and awareness connection line to this planet that is a part of the process of consciousness evolution. Okay, so these are embedded into the gridding systems of all human DNA, genetic lines, grid lines, meridian lines. Essentially every point on this grid system already lives within your body. So it's really just coming into the consciousness of the existence of these APINs to activate that energy and to start receiving those 12D pulses and codes that are actually being generated and pumped to these specific grid systems on the planet. Okay, so, and that's how you can attune your consciousness to come to perceive that activation within that grid network, is to turn towards that realization, that perception, that emotion inside of yourself, and therefore that template will then activate within your body. So like I said, yeah, I do believe that the second planetary grid site, Sarasota, Florida, is activating right now, and it is activating these two APIN grid networks, which is the serpent and the eagle. So yes, we are the lion, the white lion APIN is always the foundation. This is like, I feel like this was like the original one. The lion was. And that was created by the Guardian founder races. And this is a very beneficial network system. This system is supposed to activate the 12th dimensional Christed crystalline codes through 12 code pulses that activate the 4 faces of man, which is another grid system, if any of you have seen the 4 faces of man. So this is also a beneficial one. So essentially what's interesting about these two specifically that we're going to talk about today is that they are both activated from the heart and the head of the serpent by the grid point Sarasota, Florida, which is considered inner Earth. It is considered the second dimensional grid point to the planet. So if you think of the seeding of consciousness and how it would essentially birth into the planet, it's essentially seeding in through gate 4 Giza, and then there is almost like this transfer of energy to Sarasota, Florida, and then the fruition of that energy from the Bermuda Triangle. It's those first three do actually represent the first 3 dimensions of consciousness within the human psyche, which is really interesting, and even more, how we're all interconnected. But essentially, all of this is activating right now. All of these grid systems are coming up to the surface, essentially because of our activations and alignments with Hydra right now. So you can actually see that, like I said, we are aligning to the head. So where we're at as far as dates, so we're at August 1st. August 1st is right, or August 2nd. So August 2nd is here, as far as where we're at on the ecliptic plane. Okay. So the sun comes in from that eastern to northern to southern to western setting, and it comes in this way. So this is how the sun is rising, culminating, and setting. So you can see how that activation is. We're actually activating through the head of the serpent, and then we're coming into that alignment with Regulus, okay, and Alphard. So yeah, we will be thoroughly through the snake head when we come into that fully illuminated Lion's Gate. And the galactic portal activation tomorrow on the 3rd, according to the Mayan calendar, this is also going to accelerate that energy. So anytime we come into a galactic activation portal day, within your scope and perception of 4th dimensional time within the Mayan calendar, so I know many of you have switched to the Mayan calendar, which is great because it's once you go through a year's worth of integrating the Mayan calendar, it then becomes a platform for you to manifest out of or off of and in of. There is an integration process of the calendar. So when you first get the calendar, you're going to go through an entire year of actually experiencing the activation. So it's your attunement process. Then when you come into your 2nd year of having the Mayan calendar, it's kind of like, okay, now I have the experienced references to correlate with the activation. So now you get to start to see the more, you go from being like an adept to being like a master, or you go from being like an adept to being like a sage. You transition into the next experience of that perception within the calendar system. So as you come into these galactic activation portal days, there is not so much of like, I'm not really sure what to expect or what's happening. Now you know that the gateway is more open, the gateway is more heightened to attune to those celestial radial light sources. So now you're coming into that awareness through a different perception. And everything is just going to be accelerated through August 3rd. So tomorrow is going to be a big day, and we're going to be illuminated in those triple radial plasma waves, and it's going to be very heightened. And so, we are guided through the Lion's Gate, through the essence of Hydra, which has brought us, much rain this summer. Okay, you'll notice that this summer was very, very rainy. And honestly, I've been guided over the last 4 months to be consistently pumping out messages through the breath of Hydra. Literally, like, as much as I try to stuff this stuff away and just be like, I don't want to talk about Hydra today, somehow something will present, something will push its way back through where I'm like, I have to acknowledge Hydra's essence, Hydra's presence. It keeps coming back. I feel like it's here to stay. It's just, I feel like it's Hydra's year of the Divine Feminine in 2019. And that will be continued to be awakened through the reign of the serpent, through the identity of Gaia. the messages I have been getting over and over is that it is the year of Hydra. She's making her way back into the collective consciousness. So if anyone has read my article on Hydra's rebirth into the collective consciousness, I know some of you have, so thank you. And if you haven't, just take a second to read the article that I wrote, Hydra's rebirth into the collective consciousness, as I feel that if you haven't, I'll leave a link in the description, but it does go into the detail of this hidden archetype and the aspects of the feminine psyche. And we have a very long journey of Hydra to come, okay? Because we're going to be riding Hydra all the way till mid-October. So we have Hydra, we've just come into the head of Hydra. And we're going to be activating to this celestial energy all the way through October. And she just pretty much rides like the whole entire length of my pen on that ecliptic plane. Okay. And what's interesting is the head of Hydra is so Alphard, which is kind of down by the heart of Hydra, but I feel that the head of Hydra is ultimately what is activating this inner earth. Okay, because Hydra represents the underworld. Hydra represents the birthing of human, the birthing of man. She is the Kundalini energy. She is that regenerative force that basically accelerates life, creation, death, rebirth, all of that energy, right? Because of aligning to the head, that is how I can go ahead and say that yes, Sarasota, Florida of inner earth is activating, because Sarasota, Florida, which is right here, Universal Stargate 2, representing inner earth, is the heart of the snake APIN. And the heart of the eagle. That's Sarasota, Florida right there. So there is a birthing from the underworld that's taking place right now. There's a birthing from, it's either a rebirth, it's a dying off of, it's a transformation, it's an alchemical process that is happening. And it's happening on a lot of different levels. It's not just one way, it's not just one thing, it never is. There is no right, there is no wrong. It's just all creation, all simultaneously, all now. But essentially, from now until mid-October, Hydra will be the base radial light source of the collective manifestation template, especially because she has the advantage riding on the southern belly of the ecliptic plane. In the meantime, okay, this goes out to all my Hydra Starseeds. Hydra Starseeds, in the meantime, keep your ravens, okay? Keep your ravens close, because these will be the only ones that will be essentially loyal to you at this time. For the Hydra Starseed will be deeply connected to the raven in spirit and human physical form, because if you have Hydra in your birth chart, you will most likely have a raven that follows you, okay? It's just happening. This is just what's happening for you. This raven connection that you have is very, very, very profound, and either your celestial markers or the celestial markers of your closest friends and family will be that of Corvus. And they will essentially serve the same mission with you. Okay, so they're going to be the most loyal to you. It's going to be an indicator that if you are of a Hydra Starseed origin and you have those in your life that have proven to have Corvus somewhere in the chart, just know that that is a connection that you can trust. That is a connection that is going to be rooted in shifting into the next harmonic time cycle together. So you can rely on that connection, because you're both essentially carrying the mission of the Grail. You're carrying the cup. All Hydra Starseeds are committed to and connected to and feel that they carry the burden on their back to honor that grail line and to activate that grail line. That is the mythology of Hydra, is to bring that to the collective, to bring that to the psyche. And so that is what those that are connected to Hydra are going to be activating to, awakening to, experiencing, like having these perceptions and realizations within their conscious manifestation templates and in their own human psyche, is that they are indebted to some type of servitude when it comes to carrying the wealth, the knowledge of the Grail line, passing that down to their grandchildren, passing that on to their friends and family and to the collective, and to be that signature. It's a very unseen, unheard, unfelt signature. And there's a reason why it's been casted, the things that it's been casted, and that's all stuff I do go in my article. But, you know, essentially just kind of getting back to the energy update, the next lunar cycle, okay, the next lunar moon is going to be the lunar moon of challenge. And in that, we are stacked with 6 galactic portal activations. So this month, right now, that we're going through is the calm before the storm, so to speak, because September may, in fact, actually, I'm predicting this, is going to be the rainiest month we are going to have. So we must enjoy and stay conscious this month, because through this lunar tone, we are anchoring in the intention of the whole entire year. Okay, because the first magnetic tone in the Mayan calendar is actually drawing that energy in. It's drawing in that intention. You'll notice in the Mayan calendar how in every single lunar tone, or I'm sorry, every single wave spell, it's actually being drawn in magnetically by the first magnetic tone. Everything comes in through a magnetic tone. It is the incipient force in the Mayan calendar, the magnetic tone. So this month specifically, we are drawing in our intentions and setting them for the entire year. So next month is going to be a challenging month. And so we have to embrace the calm before the storm right now. Is kind of what we're all doing. It's kind of what we're all preparing for on a subconscious level, is we're preparing for the rain to come, because she's going to be kicking this off all the way till October, okay? Mid-October. We're going to be going through Hydra mythology. Well, Hydra is the rain, and she is going to bring it. I also wanted to add, if you have Regulus in your chart, if you have strong Regulus Starseed markers, essentially you're going to feel highly connected to Hydra. So any celestial markers within the body of Hydra, within a relativity of the body of Hydra, I would say all the way around here, you're going to feel extremely affiliated to Hydra. So even if you don't necessarily have Alphard or any Hydra within your birth chart specifically, where you can say, yeah, I have a Hydra marker, if you have Regulus, if you have Corvus, if you have Alphard, if you have Spica even, if you have Virgo, the Virgin, okay, you're gonna feel an affiliation to Hydra, or just the serpent lineage origin in general. And then also having a Hydra connection could draw one in deeper to the origin of the southern pinwheel galaxy that is also located in Hydra. Okay, so not too many constellations can actually say that they have a galaxy within their body, but Hydra is one constellation that can say, yes, I have a galaxy within my constellation. So it's kind of like, it only deepens that expression of its creator power, of its creator God, because it's like we have our metagalactic core, our universal metagalactic core that's essentially seeding the consciousness of our planet, right? Because we're within that galaxy, we live within that galaxy. But when you can look through a constellation and see a galaxy within that constellation, there is still an influence, even though it's not as direct, but there is still a prime creator influence from that galaxy. So just know that if you're a Hydra Starseed, that you are integrating from that specific galaxy as well. So the southern pinwheel galaxy would be where you would be essentially feeding from, because it's all a food source. So as one learns how to attune inside to certain energies, there's also that integration, absorption, reflection that's happening. That is a way that you are consuming energy. So you're feeding upon that energy. If you are feeding upon internal, eternal, galactic sources, there is an everlasting regeneration of that energy. There is no combustion or self-imploding, because that energy structure stays open to that eternal system. Now, what was actually brought to my attention was the connection with the Demiurge. So if any of you have heard of this being, it's basically an archetypal figure that's a lion head mixed with a snake's body. And something tells me that there is a merging that happens. So if you think about the Demiurge, that half snake, half lion head, you know, it only makes sense because here we are with the alignment of Regulus, the lion, and we have the heart of Alphard, the Hydra, the snake. And this just brings up the awareness of metamorphosis, okay? There is a huge metamorphosis that is taking place within our soul genetics, within our DNA, within our actual mutations of our genetics and our DNA. And this metamorphosis, I think, is a very misunderstood. And what's interesting is I feel like this alignment actually marks the mark of the beast. I feel like this is the 666 alignment right here. And I know that's crazy, I just threw that out there, but I'm coming to this conclusion because of all of the casting of the demonic energy that has been thrusted upon the celestial stargate of Hydra, right? You know, the casting out of the snakes out of Ireland, you know, all of the suppression throughout our religious history of all of the demonizing of the snake, right? The snake is the demonic entity in the story of Adam and Eve. Well, I feel that this celestial alignment is what actually activates that belief system within the collective. And let me explain why. So Gnostic teachings presents a distinction between the highest unknowable God or supreme being and the demiurge creator of the material. Okay, so this would be going, Regulus would be considered the highest supreme being, connecting to the alignment that I made yesterday, which would be that Cat's Eye Nebula, even Thuban, even the pole star, okay? Polaris is coming through, majorly coming through the gates of Regulus, the gates of the lion. But essentially Regulus is the regulator. He's the man regulating stuff. So yeah, that would be the 666 mark of the beast alignment right there. And I'm saying this because several systems of the Gnostics thought the demiurge as an antagonistic to the will of the supreme being. His act of creation occurs in an unconscious semblance of the divine model, and thus is fundamentally flawed, or else is formed with the malevolent intention of entrapping aspects of the divine in the materiality. Thus, in such systems, the demiurge acts as a solution to the problem of evil. Demiurge is the agent who takes the pre-existing materials of chaos, arranges them according to the models of eternal forms, and produces all the physical things of the world, including human bodies. The demiurge is sometimes thought as the Platonic personification of active reason. The term was later adopted by some of the Gnostics who, in their dualistic worldview, saw the demiurge as one of the forces of evil who was responsible for the creation of the despised material world and was wholly alien to the supreme God of goodness. And I feel that this metamorphosis of the alien species is implying that man himself was birthed from the underworld. You know what I mean? Especially with that eagle, Sarasota, Florida, inner earth, access gate point to the underworld, inner earth. You have to understand that these densities, these dimensions are only describing like a realm within your psyche's consciousness to perceive different states of existence within your physical third dimensional experience, right? Because it can also be interpreted as the alchemical stages of going from antimatter to matter, going from antiparticle to particle. So it's like, it's just the birthing process of consciousness. It's just the birthing process of seeding. It's just describing going from death to birth and life to death. That's all this is really describing. There is no evil involved, but these are the ET mutations of conceptualizations and idealizations of thoughts that we attach to specific energy patterns and frequency, not necessarily meaning that it represents the totality of evil. Okay, it's just a differentiation or a framework to actually put that thought into and to allow to be able to distinguish the difference. And so that's really all it is when you're hearing density 1 through density 12, like, is that variation in particle rotation within your own perception of the vibration of the shift inside of your body. And it makes sense if you think about how consciousness comes through the water, the amniotic fluid representing the subconscious. Well, the subconscious accesses the realms of the underworld all the time. You are always accessing the realm of the underworld. I'm accessing it right now as I'm talking to you. I mean, you access these aspects of your psyche when you sleep, when you meditate, or even when you're awake. You're just unconscious of the differentiation and the shift of that realm. All realms will actually merge as one, and that's why it's not uncommon anymore for me to talk about myself or someone that I know that has said that they have accessed the underworld because of the veils that are thinning. Okay, the veils are not just thinning into ascension. Even though as much as we want to say we're going into fifth dimension, no duality, all unity, harmony, bliss, peace, magic, all that good shit, right? Which we are doing that. We're not doing that. But there is this capacity now to actually access the elemental bodies within the body. Okay, so, you know, especially if you're working with the DNA, healing the DNA, it's just, you're accessing ability to experience these alchemical shifts as they occur within your body. And so sometimes that means going into a Bardo state, which a Bardo state would be experiencing that inner earth aspect, that inner earth realm. If you have that experience, that is considered entering to what would be like experiencing the iron in the body or the nickel in the body. Because once a quantum seed decides to burn out, once a quantum seed starts to lose its generation of energy, it goes into a alchemical shift into more of a dense state, more of an iron state in the body. And that is the process of going into Bardo, inner earth, underworld. But going into that state has shown me what all exists in the quantum spectrum of 1D to 15D. So I believe the human eye spectrum can only see about 10% of all light spectrum, unless you have a seriously decalcified pineal and have gone through some type of rigorous ascension that's going to grant you more vision and access to interdimensional spectrum color wavelength. So that just goes to show you how much you are visually not seeing, meaning that, you know, you are experiencing the underworld, you are experiencing Bardo, you are experiencing that simultaneously to your consciousness now. It is just parallel to that. And you cannot identify, if you're not trained in what that radial essence or that magnetic infiltration or dense compressing. Actually, it feels like, unless you're trained in the experience, you're not going to experience it when you're going through it. So it's kind of like, that's why it is a process of alchemical shifting. Yeah, so that's what I do feel, that these APIN networks, I feel like this is where and how this reverse D4 through 11 reverse current Phoenix wormhole birthed from, was from that Sarasota Inner Earth gateway, but also an equally birthed the beneficial Golden Eagle APIN, Guardian Seraphim Avian Hominide APIN from that Inner Earth grid point as well. I think that it marks, this is what is birthed from the head of Hydra, is this mark of the beast type Demiurge. And yeah, so this is not negative. This is not a bad thing. This is just how I feel one transitions from antimatter to matter, antiparticle to particle. It's just a shift in the particle rotation. And the shift in the energy, when it's not understood, is labeled and misused and unauthorized and reversed and hijacked, and all of these things that basically accelerate the duality on this planet. So because of all of this dualistic past demonizing of Hydra, of this gateway, of that mark, of that inner earth gateway, the demonizing of that gateway, it's like basically the collective or past religious belief systems are saying that first and second dimension are evil, and third dimension through 12th dimension are not evil. I mean, it's kind of like, it doesn't, or saying first, second, and third are all unconscious and the rest are conscious, which we do say that. We do say that in the spiritual community. But it is kind of like saying that, you know, first and second dimension are evil, the anti-particle is evil, the underworld is evil. Well, it's just a part of creation, and it's just merged in with the different levels and abilities to be able to basically merge between those realms. It's just the merging. So it's the metamorphosis that is labeled, it's the metamorphosizing that is labeled evil. A Hydra Starseed will carry a tremendous mission of transforming the serpent lineage and past demonizing of the feminine on their back. And their mythology is to bring the divine feminine into wholeness with the divine masculine collective on the planet. Their mission on Earth is the goddess rising and bringing the feminine back, nature consciousness back again, and sacred worship of the mother back. And if you are a Hydra Starseed, you're probably going to have this placement in your birth chart anywhere from 16 to 30 degrees Cancer according to the Lunar Alignment. And it is the constellation following Sirius. And this is the origin of the serpent bloodline, of the pagan bloodline. Okay guys, namaste. Thank you so much for watching this energy update. I will be back with more, as I always am. I did want to highlight my Patreon. If www.patreon.com/IndigoAngel, you can exclusively sign up to start having access to my bioregenesis techniques for ascension. And here is where I have launched all of my ascension techniques that I do believe are strategically designed according to Kelanta morphogenetic sciences to expand your consciousness. So you will really, really enjoy these techniques. And this is a constant development. I post new techniques every week.